Hey everybody, Coach here. I hope by the end of this video, you're actually listening to what I have to say, considering the backdrop that I have found to do this week's episode for you. Hey, this week we are talking about Landscape Design 101. We are going to design for the 10th year, a little theory I was taught a long time ago. I'm sure glad you're here. By the time we're done, I hope you have the ability and at least the resources to do a design yourself and be able to visualize the work that's ahead of you in a landscape project of your own. We'll be right back. So I've been asked in the past, does the average person need a degree in ornamental horticulture? Do they need a degree or at least a couple, 3-4 years in landscape design theory and practice? Well, I would say it wouldn't hurt, but it is not necessary. Not in this day and age. When I had my education, it was back in the 70s. And back then, there was no internet. There was no anything but the library and a city college campus. So, do you need it? I'd have to say no. And by the end of the video, if you stick with me, I think you'll understand why. Hey, if you haven't already, really consider subscribing to the channel and maybe giving me a like at the end. A lot of effort Maestro and I do to put this thing together every week for you, and it helps grow the channel. My goal for you is something a little above a cocktail napkin and below a CAD program computer to design your yard, whether it be front or back or side yard, it won't matter. Just probably an easy, simple, as long as you understand it and as long as you can convey what's on the design to maybe some professional help that you might bring on. That's all you're going to need. Okay, so to ease you into your inner landscape designer mantra, we're going to cover a couple of things real quick that I want you to keep in mind. And you can screenshot it, you can do whatever. But keep in mind these few thoughts. Number one, always design to a specific budget. Always. Do not confabulate your design if you cannot afford it. The only exception to that is if you are going to do it in phases over many, many years based on the cost. Number two, find out and understand your climate zone where you're at. If you've lived there your whole life, you probably know you're in zone 9A, or maybe it's zone 7 or zone 4, or like where Maestro and I are right now, zone 3. Very, very cold part of northeast Minnesota. But not today. It's 70 degrees. When they are open and they're fully stocked, make sure you take time before you put pen or pencil to paper. Go to your local nurseries and familiarize yourself with the plant material they carry for the zone that you're in. And start taking notes when you're there as far as the ones you like and the ones you don't like. I strongly urge you not to get pulled down the Pinterest and Google Images rabbit hole. And I'll explain that in a little more detail in a few minutes. Number 5, educate yourself on the necessary tools you're going to need, not only to do your design, but also to do the project. Things that you have on hand, things that you might need to get, and things that you might need to rent. And finally, number 6, the most important part of a landscape design is make sure you draw it as if your landscape is mature. You design for the 10th year. Do not design and think that you can put in a bunch of little itty bitties on your design and then you're just cursing me at your 5th year with everything overcrowded, overgrown, and things are having to come out. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you in your landscape design prowess? Is it something you think you can pull off or something you think you need to educate yourself a little bit? Well, don't forget my website. You got the great ebook there that's really going to give you a great starter as far as how to design it out and all the things that encompass a landscape project. And go big or go home, try Homescape 1.0, the digital course that'll teach you everything you need to know about residential landscaping. It's on the website and it's always here below me. And you can click right here and I'll give you a special viewer discount. You won't even have to be part of the Yard Coach crew, but I'd love it if you were. So back to number 6 for just a second. It is all going to be based on spacing. Spacing, one of the biggest landscape theories that you have to know. And the way you have to know it is the plant material that you're going to choose. You know the final size that those plants are. Both shrubs, perennials, trees, vines, whatever you decide, you have to know what that mature plant is going to look like and how are you going to use it in your landscape of whatever size it is. If you have something that's 6 by 6, don't put them 2 feet apart. If you have something that's 2 by 2, don't space them 20 feet apart unless that's the look you're going for. One thing I strongly urge you to do, and that is when you space your new bread and butter plants out on your landscape design, consider some nice colorful perennials, annuals, garden art, water features, whatever they might be, that'll be the gaps and fillers in between your bread and butter plants as they start to grow up. And when they are mature, your perennials can be divided and propagated in other parts of the yard, or you can give them to family, friends, and neighbors. The other thing you'll have to understand and get your head around is the theory of scale and using an engineer rule, like this one right here. An engineer ruler is going to really help you take that 75 foot wide and 50 foot deep or whatever your backyard, front yard, whatever it is, and be able to shrink it down and put it on a piece of paper and make sense of it all. When I was doing all the designing in those years, I always kind of gravitated, because I had to put some other things on a professional design, I always gravitated by a 24-inch by 36-inch piece of paper. And I generally got them at Staples or Office Supply or a printing shop or somewhere. It was always the perfect size for 90% of the designs I did, the size of the yards where I could shrink the yard down and yet still make it large enough to make sense to a client when I'm presenting it. It also gave me room to put in designer notes, which I really strongly urge you to do so that you don't forget, and it was enough to put in a legend like a client's name or an address of the property or whatever. Now, what about your plant knowledge? Scale of 1 to 10 again, where are you at on plant knowledge? Most people kind of remember either plants that they've had in the past, what they grew up with, what the neighbor has, and you have to start taking stock and taking a little bit of inventory of what kinds of plant material you're going to want to put in your new landscape. And when you do this, write it down. Don't forget it. But what happens, Coach, if I don't know a petunia from a pansy? That's okay. You can still put a nice layout together on a piece of paper, incomplete of a legend of what plant material it's going to be. You can have scale correct. You can have the plants correct, spacing correct. You just don't have them labeled as far as what they're going to be. Then take that incomplete plan down to the nursery with some photographs of the job site and employ them to come up with plant suggestions that are going to work and they're going to fit your scale of the plant material you already have. Those professionals are trained, at least they should be, in how to do that kind of stuff. They know where the full sun 4 foot by 4 foot plants are, and they can show you a selection of them. Maybe you only want 2 by 2 plants. They should know where those are at too. What about shady perennials? See where I'm going? So take those down there, but do me a favor. Don't be a jerk. Make sure if those people dispense all their professional knowledge to get your design from almost done to done and really making sense in your head, make sure you patronize that place and develop a good first name basis with some of the professionals that work there. It's going to make your job so much easier. It really will. So when I say don't get pulled down that Pinterest and Google Images rabbit hole, so many people, especially people who are not thoroughly versed in the cost factor of landscaping in this day and age, they love to see those beautiful, beautiful pictures. The ones that just make you go, oh gosh, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Yes, it is gorgeous, but can you afford it? And is it in your budget? If it is, knock yourself out, make it happen. But if it is not, don't go designing stuff that's going to cost you $100,000 if you only have 20 to spend. It's just going to frustrate you. So those are really great idea inducers, but just don't start putting those kinds of things in your design if it's not within your budget. So let's wrap up this Landscape Design 101. A couple of the things that we started off the show with, and I want to end because I really want to reinforce it. Know your current level of expertise in this field. Get educated on your weak parts, and then really expound on your strong parts. If you know you're good at physical labor, you're already 50% of the way home. If you're really good at a creative, artistic design, good. Everybody will want to understand it when it's all finished. But maybe you need some help doing various phases of the design when you get to that execution and implementation phase. Know who to turn to. Family, friends, neighbors, whatever. And then make sure you return the favor. Again, know your environmental zone. What zone are you in and what plant materials are going to thrive there? Know your soils of what you have. What are you going to have to do to make sure that this landscape is going to thrive? And make sure the plant material that you're going to put in there is going to thrive in your soil. There are some people that have some soils that are so horrible that they either have to really chemically amend them, or they take the easy way out and not the dumb way out. They do raised gardens. They do raised beds. Remember, you can design up an incomplete sketch. Take some photos, seek out your local professional to make sure that they can help you, and then patronize that nursery over and over again and develop that good reputation as a great customer with a few first name basis relationships within their staff. Most importantly, be patient with yourself. Just because you screw up on a sketch, do it in pencil. Who cares? It's a piece of paper. You can always do it over again. Once you get your plot plan down, where you have all your measurements, your dwelling, maybe some existing elements that are going to stay, then make some copies. Now when you get to the artistic part of plant material implementation to put on the design, then do 2 or 3 of them. See which one really suits your fancy. Most of the time it'll be a compilation of 1, 2, or 3 that you've already done. And I'll leave you with this, one of the most important theories behind landscape design. Everything that I asked at the kitchen table when I was sitting down with a new client, and that was, what was their needs, not their wants. What are their needs from the landscape that they want to put in? Is it something, play area for the kids? Dog run for doggo? Expansion of lawn or shrinking of lawn? Whatever the need is, it has to make sense, and you have to be able to justify it with your budget. So remember, your needs over your wants. By the time you get done with your landscape design, your landscape plan, you will be able to implement that plan into action because you will have it up here. It's what I really cover in the course. Once it's up here and you can visualize it, the rest of the road is just pure physical labor to get you from point A and over that finish line. So remember to plan your work and then work your plan. The more you know, the easier your project will go. I guarantee it. Hey, and you have a coach right here that you can reach out to. If I can't get you on the phone, we will definitely discuss stuff on the email. Hey, don't forget to join up and being a Yard Coach crew member. You know, if you have a project coming up next spring, you can always up and join for some nominal monies, and you'll have access to me at most any time through a scheduling and appointment process, but you'll have a coach right there that can Skype you or Zoom you and be able to look and see what you got and offer the best advice I can. Think about it. Is that worth $25 or $50 a month for the time you're doing your project? It's pretty good insurance, because you're not always going to guarantee what the contractors and what your designers and nursery people's schedule is going to be like during the busy spring. So something you might want to consider. So that's what I have for you this week. One last thought before I go, a little bonus that I have, and that is when you're doing your designing, consider the amount of maintenance you want to put into your new landscape. When it's all said and done, it looks really pretty. What are you going to do as far as maintenance? Are you a once a week type of person? Maybe a twice a month? How about once a quarter? Know what you want to do every weekend or on your days off in order to keep your landscape thriving and always moving forward, looking its best. Something to really consider. Make sure you're congruent with your significant other as well. That's what I have for you guys this week. I really appreciate it. If you stuck around with me this long, Please consider subscribing if you think the content is worth it, and check out some of my other videos that I have and the plan of the week. I always have a podcast that matches this episode so you can take it on the road with you, no matter what you're doing. Thanks for your time. As always, to your landscape success, I will see you next week. Bye for now.